I'm going to do this in English. Azalia is going to speak mainly Spanish, and Javier is going to translate. We'll try and get that working as smoothly as possible. My name is Cecilia Brinck. I am a member of Parliament. I used to work with the Jarl Hjalmarson Foundation. I used to do a lot of training, and I've been asked to be the moderator of this seminar in Nicaragua. But I know these two people, and they don't really need a moderator, so in a minute I'm just going to turn the mic over to them. We have about an hour, and hopefully there'll be room for questions and comments after the presentations. Since I don't know all of you, please make a sign that I can see, and I'll try and keep track of who wants to speak. And now I'm going to turn the mic over to Javier and welcome our guest, Azalia Aviles, who is the chairperson, one should rightly say, of the International Women's Democratic Union, and Javier Baez, who is a youth activist, consultant, and who is now mainly going to act as a translator, but hopefully will contribute points of views on the situation in Nicaragua. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much por tenernos acá en este país tan bello.
Thank you very much for having us today in this beautiful country.
Que cree en la libertad y en la democracia.
That believes in liberty and democracy.
Y que ha sido un fuerte apoyo para la democracia en Nicaragua.
And it has been a great support to democracy in Nicaragua.
Y agradecemos a la Fundación Jarl Hjalmarson.
And we thank Jarl Hjalmarson Foundation.
A su directora Eva Gustafsson.
And her director Eva Gustafsson.
Y a su equipo.
And her team.
Que ha hecho posible que esto
that has made this possible for us.
Agradecemos a ustedes, los miembros del Parlamento y a todos los invitados especiales.
Thank you, members of Parliament and the special guests here.
Por recibirnos el día de hoy.
For having us today.
Y explicar la situación en nuestro país.
And helping us explain our situation in our country.
Bueno, primero que todo, quiero decirles que Nicaragua es una república.
We want to start by telling you that Nicaragua is a republic.
Que alcanzó su independencia en el siglo pasado.
That we had our independence in the past century.
Y ha sido un país que ha estado involucrado en luchas y guerras.
And it's a country plagued with wars and struggles.
Nuestro partido, el Partido Conservador,
our party, the Conservative Party,
ha estado en el poder por 30 años. Primero.
We were in power for about 30 years now.
Y 30 años en el siglo XIX, XX.
And 16 years in the 20th century.
Nos hemos caracterizado por haber sido un gobierno libre, transparente y con mucho desarrollo.
We have characterized our party as being a party that believes in liberty, democracy, and forward progress.
Pero en los años 40
but in the 1940s,
vino una dictadura en Nicaragua.
Nicaragua faced a dictatorship
controlada por Anastasio Somoza de Valle.
By Anastasio Somoza.
Un general y miembro de una familia muy fuerte en Nicaragua.
Military general, part of a very prominent family in Nicaragua.
Y se estableció por casi 45 años en Nicaragua.
And the Somoza dynasty was in Nicaragua for about 40 years.
Como una dictadura militar.
As a military dictatorship.
Pero en los 80 vinieron los sandinistas.
The Sandinistas took over.
Y apoyados por la sociedad civil, los empresarios y el pueblo de Nicaragua.
And they took over in the 1980s, being a communist government.
Logramos votar esa dictadura militar.
We were able to overthrow the communist dictatorship in 1990, and we had our first free elections in 1990, in which Jarl Hjalmarson back there became the first.
Pero en los 80,
but in the 80s,
se estableció un gobierno del Frente Sandinista.
There was a gobierno sandinista, the Sandinista government, was established.
Que se desarrolló de una manera, llevó al país a la pobreza, llevó al país a la falta de libertad.
Our country went backwards. There was no progress. Poverty increased substantially, and we went from being one of the richest countries in Central America to being one of the poorest countries in the hemisphere till this day.
Hasta que vino el gobierno de Doña Violeta en los años 90
Until we got those free elections in 1990,
y empezó una nueva era para Nicaragua.
and the new era began in Nicaragua.
Empezamos a desarrollarnos económicamente
We started to increase economically in our country.
y estuvimos 16 años con este gobierno conservador y 5 años con el gobierno de Doña Violeta y 10 años con el gobierno
We
liberal.
had 5 years of a conservative power with this woman, Doña Violeta, and then 10 more years with more liberal government.
Doña Violeta ha sido la primera mujer presidenta en Nicaragua
She was the first woman president in Nicaragua,
y una de las pocas presidentas en América Latina.
and one of the few women presidents in Latin America.
Viene de familia conservadora
She comes from a conservative family,
e hizo un gobierno de transición,
and she had a transition government.
que fue muy importante para los nicaragüenses porque veníamos de un periodo de guerra
It was very important for Nicaraguans because we just came out of a war
y de destrucción,
and destruction,
donde murieron 30.000 nicaragüenses
where 30,000 Nicaraguans died
de una guerra entre hermanos
in a civil
nicaragüenses.
war between brothers.
Cuando termina el periodo de Doña Violeta y el periodo de los liberales,
When the Violeta Baez de Chamorro period was over and the liberal period was over,
la oposición se divide
the opposition divides,
y logran ganar los sandinistas de nuevo
and the Sandinistas managed to win the elections again
en el 2006.
in 2006.
Porque Arnoldo Alemán, que fue presidente,
Arnoldo Alemán, who was president in 1996,
y también don Enrique Bolaño,
and Enrique Bolaños, who was president in 2001,
este señor hace un pacto con los sandinistas
Arnoldo Alemán pacts with the Sandinistas
y logran bajar el porcentaje
and manages to lower the percentage required by Parliament to win an election.
y dos factores, bajar el porcentaje para que pudiera ganar Ortega y la división de la oposición hace que Ortega vuelva al poder.
So two factors came into play. The fact that this man controlled after the pact with the Sandinistas, he made it possible for Ortega to win with less than 40%, and the opposition also was divided. So in 2006, even though the majority of Nicaraguans did not vote for Ortega in 2006 was elected president.
Nosotros como oposición hemos estado haciendo presencia, pero Ortega cambió las reglas, empezó a cambiar las reglas del juego en Nicaragua.
As the opposition, we began to do our role as the opposition party, but Ortega has definitely changed the rules of the game.
Y esto es lo que se llama actualmente en Latinoamérica el socialismo del siglo XXI.
And it's also called in Latin America right now socialism of the 21st century,
Que no es más que un cambio de cara
which is basically a change in masks,
de comunismo a socialismo
from communism to socialism.
del siglo XXI.
It was the 21st century.
Ahí podemos pasar. Entonces empieza la aventura con Chávez
So we began our adventure with Chavez,
y Chávez empieza a enviar dinero a Nicaragua,
and he starts sending money to Nicaragua,
dinero que los sandinistas han utilizado para conservarse en el poder,
money that the Sandinistas have used to conserve power in the government.
pero este dinero no pasa a través del presupuesto general de la República.
But this money does not go through the national budget, it goes through the Ortega family budget.
sino que llega a la familia Ortega Murillo.
It goes through the family of Ortega.
Y ellos venden el combustible al pueblo de Nicaragua.
And so after the Venezuela aid goes to most likely most of the aid that Venezuela gives is through energy, that being gasoline and diesel. He sells that to the Ortega family. That doesn't go through the budget. What happens later is that Ortega sells it to the Nicaragua government, and that goes to the budget.
Que el mismo gobierno que el mismo Ortega controla, ¿verdad?
And it's the same government that Ortega controls. There is no fraction of the opposition. The opposition controls nothing in the Nicaragua government.
Ellos han creado una serie de proyectos para el pueblo que son populistas.
They've created many populist programs for the people.
Por ejemplo, casas para el pueblo,
For example, housing for the poor,
comida para el pueblo,
food for the poor.
pero ellos están dando, pero no están enseñando a trabajar.
They're giving them fish, but they're not teaching them how to fish.
Entonces, eso ha creado un asistencialismo en el pueblo de Nicaragua que quiere que le den.
So that has created a lot of dependency for the Nicaraguan people that are expecting to receive something now from the government.
Y entonces ellos están ampliando su base de votantes.
So they're amplifying, or they're getting a bigger grassroots and bigger people that vote for them.
Y ellos logran ganar de nuevo en el 2012.
And they get to win again in 2012, in the presidential elections.
Con esa base
With that base,
y también haciendo un fraude electoral, uno de los más grandes,
electoral fraud and well documented.
porque ellos controlan el tribunal electoral.
Because they control the electoral tribunal in Nicaragua too.
Y la oposición, bien gracias, porque también sigue dividida.
And the opposition is still divided.
El problema más grande viene ahora cuando ellos están tratando de reformar la Constitución en Nicaragua.
There's a big problem right now because they're trying to reform the Constitution.
Y eso es muy delicado porque ellos están cambiando artículos de la Constitución donde Ortega se puede reelegir las veces que él quiera.
And that is very worrisome because he can now, just like Hugo Chavez did, can be elected indefinitely.
Y están usando también el código militar para que los militares puedan estar en los puestos de poder en diferentes partes del Estado.
And he's also using that reform just to be safe, to empower the military so that the military can also form part of his cabinet.
Esto nos lleva a una dictadura militar en muy pocos años.
So this will transition into a military dictatorship in a few years.
Pero eso es un proyecto que se va a aprobar la próxima semana y el otro año en la Asamblea, ya que ellos tienen mayoría en el Parlamento.
That is a reform that is going to take place next year because through electoral fraud, they have a supermajority in the Parliament.
Ellos tienen 62 diputados de 92.
They have 62 members of Parliament out of 92.
O sea que tienen total control de la Asamblea Legislativa.
They have total control of the legislation.
En este momento dependemos mucho de la ayuda de Venezuela
Right now we depend a lot on foreign aid from Venezuela
porque el gobierno sandinista ha sacado a todita la ayuda de Finlandia, de Suecia, de Noruega, de Dinamarca.
because the Ortega government has been very effective in kicking out the foreign aid from different countries that used to give foreign aid to NGOs and the government from the countries she just mentioned, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and many others.
Y están planeando hacer un gran canal que tiene un costo de $50.000 millones.
And they're planning on building a great canal which has a cost of $50 billion
Con un inversionista chino
with a Chinese investor
que no sabemos si es representante del gobierno chino o
which we know
qué.
very little about.
Pero entonces Nicaragua, el pueblo de Nicaragua está viviendo de esperanza nada más,
So the Nicaraguan people are just filled with hope.
que son las esperanzas que ellos mantienen viva para que la gente crea que viene mucho trabajo por el canal o por otros proyectos grandes.
Which is the hope that Ortega usually gives the people, and that's how they live off of, out of hope of there's going to be jobs, there's going to be growth, there's going to be a lot of promises. They live off of promises.
Ellos en este momento han comprado todos los canales de televisión de Nicaragua y uno de los periódicos más importantes.
They have bought the majority, and when I say the majority, it means the majority except for one, of all media outlets in Nicaragua.
Que entonces ellos están siguiendo el mismo modelo que Castro, Fidel y Raúl Castro han impuesto en Venezuela, en Bolivia, en Ecuador, en Nicaragua y un poco en El Salvador.
So they're basically implementing the same model that the Raúl Castro and Fidel Castro has imposed in countries such as Venezuela, Bolivia, and a little bit in El Salvador.
Con la diferencia que están usando el dinero venezolano.
With the difference that we're using money from Venezuela to do all of this.
Entonces nosotros necesitamos el mayor apoyo de países como Suecia,
So we need the majority, we need the great support from people like the Swedish people
que aman la libertad y la democracia,
that love democracy and freedom.
porque vemos que en Nicaragua se va a establecer una dictadura a mediano plazo
Because we see that there is a great dictatorship coming in Nicaragua
que va a afectar los derechos humanos y que ya lo está afectando la libertad de prensa, la libertad de expresión, que en este momento ya están amenazadas y estamos prácticamente algunas personas siendo perseguidas.
because that will affect the civil liberties and individual liberties of many Nicaraguans and of many people that are against the government, which already has shown to be a lot of people that are persecuted had to leave the country for fear of their lives.
Javier les va a presentar cómo se desarrolla una marcha en Nicaragua y cómo el gobierno responde a esta marcha.
Now I'm going to present to you a little bit, just very quickly, of how what usually happens when someone is an opposition member in Nicaragua. So I guess this is me right now. And right now I really wanted to show all of you some videos, because I mean I can show you some pictures, but it's just not the same to actually see it. And some of the things I'm going to show you right now, these are actually built with Venezuelan money. These are all over Nicaragua, in a country where more than half of the population doesn't have light. You know, we're paying for all this. And our GDP is about 20 billion. The cost of one of those trees is $20,000. Who pays for it? We don't pay for it. Well, we end up paying for it, of course, but irresponsibly. Anyways, I usually start with an Ayn Rand quote, but I'm going to skip that. This is actually a painting in a Nicaraguan church that was made in 1967, and people see it as a prophecy because that devil right there looks exactly like Ortega. It's just a coincidence. And he has 9 fingers, which he had 9 generals. Just a very, 1967. It wasn't even close to being in power. And so a lot of people think it's a prophecy. But anyways, this presentation I gave in El Salvador because we're talking about how the socialism of the 21st century is an international movement that is taking over Latin America. It is not just us. This is an imminent threat in all of Latin America. Little by little, socialism of the 21st century is taking over Latin America. And what do they do in Nicaragua? These are kids, right? They do with paintings. They get little kids out of school, because you have to understand, more than 80% of Nicaraguans are 35 years and younger. So the youth plays a very important role in Nicaraguan politics. If you are good with the youth, it's good to be good to the youth. So the way they do it is through having, kids hold up the flags and just complete use of children in order to manipulate them from an early age. And so, they give them all t-shirts. If you see these people, they're all uniformed. They're all trained. You can never go to one of them and ask them a question. It'll have to be a member that is designated to speak. So when they speak very eloquently, and they'll tell you great messages. They'll always find an enemy saying, the United States, that's the reason we're poor. And because Nicaragua is not a poor country, it is an impoverished country. And so these are, whenever Daniel Ortega speaks, he sits people down, he cuts off all television access so that we have to listen to him. And whenever, this is funny, this is actually for Latin America, there was a lot of Latin American presidents came to Nicaragua, and these kids, they're all there, right? They have new shirts there, they say, I love FSLN, which is Frente Sandinista de Liberación Nacional. But whenever anyone comes, you'll see these. If Nicaragua ever invites you, the official Nicaraguan president invites you to come to Nicaragua, you should ask, where is the opposition? And he'll probably say, there is no opposition. But why is there no opposition? I mean, there's only a few countries where there is no opposition. What? China? Iran? And so they surround the people that say, I love Daniel, I love Ortega, right? But that's weird, isn't it? And I had friends that actually went there to try to go hold some anti-Ortega protests to that hotel, and it did not end well for them. Some ended up in the hospital, and those are some videos that I have. I can't show it to you right now. I wish I had a computer. Like I said, it's very different for me to tell you than to actually see what these people are like. They're not peaceful people. These people are violent. That is what they know. That is what they've known ever since the beginning. And this is actually the ambassador of the United States. He's being chased there by the Zayanistas. And you can tell he left. He left the country. His time there was up. But they were chasing him because we had a very vocal U.S. ambassador. And whenever you're vocal about Ortega and you're not in his plan, he's going to run you over. He has all the means to do it. He's heavily funded. These are children from school. And what they do, I don't know if anyone can read Spanish, they take you out of school to go so you can watch the soccer game. And they go and they fill up these stadiums, and of course everything is free, right? And you have people talking, the rich people, they can pay for this stuff, but this government is good because they're giving us free tickets to go watch the soccer game. And as you can see, they fill it up. In Nicaragua, if you give something for free, this is what you're going to get. And so that sits well with the people. But who ends up paying for that? The people who didn't go to it, right? These are two pictures, I wish I had a better picture, of the opposition march. This was in early 2007 when Ortega hadn't really dug in his claws. And this is more recent. It's turned into having thousands of people protest into only a handful of people. And let me tell you, if you protest there, if any of you have ever felt fear before, you have not felt the fear of being in one of these protests. And this is usually when I start showing some videos where hooded men with mortars, they just come to you and they'll start shooting at you from behind police barricades, by the way. The police protects them. There is no protection from the police. The police does not protect us. The police protects us only if they're nice people, which they're not. And these are the type of the people that we have to go out against. So whenever leaders like Azalia, they manifest their opposition or intense, you tell people to, we should go outside and protest. This is what we have to face. And anyone can tell you, these aren't civil people. These are people that have usually freedom to do whatever they want. And it's very effective because now people don't go out to the streets. Very seldomly do they actually go out. This is the police, by the way. And that's the people that go and attack us. I was at that march. So there's something that I did, since nobody was going out. I said, hey, why not have a virtual protest? I think it's good to note that only 10% of Nicaraguans have access to the internet. So I did this virtual protest, right? And I asked people, hey, on February 25th, want everyone to change their profile pictures. And they did. Thousands of people, about 16,000 people, which is quite a lot in Nicaragua, changed their profile pictures. I received a lot of death threats, everything. And the Sandinistas didn't know how to react to it because all they know is how to defend the streets. They have no presence in internet because the internet is free and there's freedom to say whatever you want. And of course they don't like that. And by the way, the reforms right now, they actually want to censor the internet because of this stuff. That's part of the reforms that are coming in. But anyways, they didn't know how to react to it. Now, even my Sandinista friends, they're like, hey, Javier, thank you. Because of you, now we spend so much on social media and this and that, and they're actually quite good. But anyways, this was some of the reactions. I asked people to send me some screenshots of their profiles, and it just, this was old Facebook, where it would tell you how many people had changed their profile pictures. And a lot of people did, and that day it was a great success. Not only that, this was actually in 2011 when there was a re-election. Ortega was heading for re-election in 2012. I was against it. CNN, Time Magazine, a lot of people gave it coverage, and we were able to tell the world that Ortega was doing something that was against the Constitution. The Constitution prohibits the president from continuous re-election and from being president more than twice. Ortega was president from 1984, and he was also president in 2006. So he had been president twice already, and he was going to be continually re-elected. So he didn't care. The Constitution doesn't matter. I mean, who's going to stop him? The military? The police? The people? He has 100% control. And he is keeping certain people happy, the businessmen. I can't go into that because I don't have time. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. One of the reasons events that happened that were people really dig about, and this is the last example, was these are old men, very old men who want their pension, and they're not giving it to them. And so, when I say old men, I mean that these people, if they don't get medication in a couple of days, they'll be escorted out. So they went into the building that gives the pension, and they held a protest, right? And so the Sandinista government, what they did was that they cut them off. They put a barricade, and actually Azalia was there helping. They put a barricade, and they let them, you couldn't bring them water, you couldn't give them, you couldn't give anything to them, food, anything. And little by little, these old women, and they were just, there, trapped. They said, we're not moving. And so this started a conscience movement in Nicaragua's youth, and for the first time in a long time, they started mobilizing. People started going and started throwing, water over the barricades, and of course there were people that were hurt by the police, and these sort of people were escorting a man that was, I guess, down after not receiving medication, and so the youth showed up. They started protesting. They held vigils, and the police actually, Azalia was there at this moment where the police was telling you stop. You can't give water to these people. You can't do anything. And what happened here, and I also had a video for that, is that at 4 a.m. there was a group of about these individuals they come in through governmental trucks, and they put them in the back of governmental trucks. They come and they just start running, and they say, "Get out of here, or I'm going to kill you." And they stole about 7 cars. They beat up many men and women, and that's how they react. That's how the government reacts, and that's how that's how it ended. And again, if I had videos, it'd be a little bit more, you'd probably get goosebumps. So with that, I'm gonna end, and I just wanna let you know that the socialism of the 21st century is a global movement. It is a movement, it is an international movement, and the people that love freedom and love democracy, us on the right, we are kind of scattered. We don't really have that, sense of connectivity, but communism didn't leave. It just rearmed, and it's very present in Latin America. And just so you know, I think that, and I urge you, that we unite, because little by little, they're going to start coming like they did before. And so I'll just leave you with that, and thank you for your time, and hope I didn't bore you with the presentation.
Pero y para terminar, quisiéramos enseñarles algo que la mayoría de los nicaragüenses queremos, y es vivir en democracia y libertad.
We want to show you something that Nicaragua.
Les quiero enseñar esta camiseta
We believe in democracy and freedom.
que significa la libertad
And that's what we
que
believe in.
queremos en Nicaragua.
We believe in the liberty that we want in Nicaragua.
Esta es una camiseta que la Fundación Jarl Hjalmarson
This is a t-shirt
nos ha
that
regalado desde hace tiempo
gave us on
y que hemos dado a juventud en Nicaragua porque representa
because it represents
la libertad
the liberty
que necesitamos en nuestros países para que podamos desarrollarnos en libertad, en democracia,
liberty,
y
democracy.
que nuestros países tengan desarrollo.
And,
Muchísimas gracias.
yeah, thank you very much.
Chao.